Hey everyone, it's your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we are going to talk about money. Money talk. And this lady I'm bringing to the stage, I couldn't be more enthusiastic about what we're going to talk about. We are going to dive deep and cover numerous topics about money, but not advanced, the beginner level. This lady is all types of money. She's doing it big, talking about in budgeting, finance, investing, and she started, get this, she started investing at the young age of 19, but she started talking about money and dealing with money since the age of 6, right? I don't know what I was doing at the age of 6. I can't even tell you, but it wasn't money. It was other things. Maybe it was girls, or I don't know, wasting my time. That's what I was doing. But you won't want to miss 1 second of what she has to say. Stay tuned. Stay with us. Here we go. Hi, I'm your favorite gentleman, Marcus Norman, Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and I have Tiffany Grant coming to the stage of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. She is the self-proclaimed money nerd and proud of it. She is rocking it, and she is beautiful. By the matter of fact, she's killing it. It's true. Black don't crack, and you'll see here shortly as I bring her onto the stage. After years of giving impromptu advice, she realized within herself that she had a gift and an energy and a vibe for money and knowledge and seeking knowledge, right? You don't stop learning. Readers are leaders, and we never stop learning and growing. And she exemplifies that all the way through by giving back. And so her podcast, her show, I just became a subscriber. You have to become a subscriber to check out what she's doing, because she's making waves in this industry. But it comes from the heart, right? She wants to give back to you, her audience, and she wants to give back because we are not doing better financially. So I can't hold this lady back any further. Help me welcome to the stage the incredible Miss Tiffany Grant.
Hey, Marcus. Thank you so much for having me. You know, I need you to introduce me on all different platforms, anything that I do, because you just nailed that in so many ways. I was over here jamming with the music, and I was like, okay. But I'm excited to be here.
I appreciate you. Yeah, girl, I will be there with the beatbox, the microphone right behind you. I'll be your sound effects person, rooting for you all the way. I appreciate you. But it's true. You did all the work, sister. I couldn't be happier and prouder to see you doing your thing and killing it in the absolute game. So thank you for doing what you do, because you could be doing anything, right? You could be doing anything you set your mind to, because that's the type of mind you have. But you choose to give back and educate others. And so thank you for doing what you do.
Yeah, thank you so much. You know, I figured it out, and luckily I figured it out, you know, in my 20s, that this is my passion and this is what I love doing. I love educating people, and I love talking about money. So I was like, why not just mesh those two things together and make it happen?
I'm with you. I'm
Yeah.
with you. Love talking about money. Love talking about money. But I want to talk about you, and I want to focus on something significant you did. But how did you come up with the name Tiffany Money Talk with Tiff? Obviously your name is in it, but you do something unique, and it stood out to me. You hold a gold bar in your bio and in all your media and all your marketing, which stood out to me. I was like, first off, where'd you get a gold bar, and why? What's the significance behind it? Please tell us.
Yes. So, you know, insider thing, it's fake. It's not real.
Darn.
Right. Wish it was real. But no, it was just a prop for the photo shoot. But I wanted to incorporate money in there. And so I was like, oh, the gold bar, and, you know, match my outfit and everything. And then also in some of the pictures, I have my mic, because that's the main way that I communicate with people. I love speaking. I love podcasting. I love talking. So I was like, this kind of embodies who I am as a person. And then I made sure that with all the outfits, they were very bright, you know, very colorful. I'm laughing all the time because I laugh in all the pictures. So it just embodies who I am as a person. So that's kind of where that came from.
That makes sense. That's fair and that's real. So unfortunately, y'all, the gold bar isn't real. So don't sit there and scope this woman out. It's fake. It's a fake gold bar. But kudos to you for the impromptu and I love the photos. Girl, your eyebrows are on fleek in all your pictures. I don't know what you be doing, but kudos to your stylist. You are always on point, ready to go. I also wanted to talk about you talk about on your show, you bring on numerous guests and incredible guests to talk about the different aspects of finance and podcasting and influence. You're a woman of influence, huge influence. But you talk about something that's a little bit different from me. You talk about building wealth through ideas. Can you explain what that means and what the concept behind that?
Absolutely, absolutely. So this was actually a more recent episode because somebody asked me. I was at FinCon, and they were like, "What is the premise behind your podcast? Like, what is the purpose of it?" And so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna answer this on my Tiffany's take on Tuesday. So pretty much, my belief is that the way out of poverty is ideas, right? So when I started the podcast, at first I thought it was just going to be monologue because I was like, oh, it's just going to be me talking about my blog post, pretty much reiterating stuff. But more and more people wanted to be guests. And so then it kind of transformed to now mostly interviews. Now, what I'm trying to accomplish is have these people on to talk about how they make, spend, invest, and save whatever they do with their money, how they do it so that way whoever is listening in the audience, it might be somebody that never even thought whatever that thing was possible. It might be somebody that's like, oh, I never knew that you can make $10,000 a month just writing. I love writing. Let me try that, And so that's why I say the way out of poverty is ideas, because you don't know what you don't know. And a lot of these things I didn't even know until I was exposed to it. And so that's kind of the premise behind the podcast. I just want to make sure that I'm the catalyst to spread some of these ideas, because there's so many different ways to make money out here. And literally, I tell people all the time, it doesn't matter what you love to do. There is somebody out here that is willing to pay you for it. So I would love to be that catalyst for you so you can figure out, oh, I could totally do this, or I could travel the world and still do that, and I've talked about so many different things, so many different guests. And that's pretty much why is because I want to make sure that these stories get out there so that way other people can be inspired and other people can get on their track to money.
Killing the game, an absolute gem. You address something very crucial in the Black community, and it's a hot topic, but it's an important topic nonetheless. What is the significance of financial literacy in the Black community, and what is currently going on in the Black community that you see? Because you specifically talk to this and you educate others and address the financial literacy. I see it as a problem. What do you think? What are your take on finance in the Black community?
Yeah, absolutely. This is one of my favorite talks because it's so necessary. And, in our community, we do not talk about money enough. That is the pretty much the root of it, right? But then you have to figure out, okay, how do we get here? And at the end of the day, we don't know what we don't know. So a lot of parents, for instance, or grandparents or whomever, they're not comfortable talking about money. So then, of course, they're not going to talk to the kids about money, and so on and so forth. And so that's how things keep perpetuating. So in regards to financial literacy in our community, we are lagging behind, of course, our white counterparts and things like that. And being that we have so much knowledge out here, and there's so many people like me, like I made a post with all the Black financial creators, and it's so many of us. So there's a lot of us out here trying to bridge that gap because we understand, looking at the history in America, if we see, our white counterparts talking about something, we might tune it out. We might be like, oh, well, I don't know if I want to believe that. What are you trying to do? You trying to get over? It's just that level of trust is not there. And so that's why there's a lot of people that look like us now that are out here trying to educate as well. And see, when I started the blog, because Money Talk with Tiff started as a blog, it was to educate. Like, I call my platform a financial education platform because I go to the basics. Like, I used to do a Wednesday word of the week where I'm just giving you definitions of words because it's so important to have that baseline. And unfortunately, in our community, we're not too educated on just the basics. And so we're easy to get over on. And a lot of the other ethnicities and stuff know this, and that's why they look at us as like the cash cows. But it's not that we don't have money. We have a lot of money as a people. Matter of fact, we have the amount of Black wealth here in America is equal to Canada's entire GDP. So we have enough money that a whole country can operate off of us, you know? And so it's not that we have a money problem. We don't have an earning problem. We have a spending problem. And so if we can just get the basics of financial literacy and stuff down pat, then people can't talk to us any old kind of way. You also get this other this whole level of respect. Like when I go into a bank or when I'm going to negotiate for a car or whatever it is, if I come in knowing what I'm talking about, they're not going to try to get over on me. And I've actually had a car salesman tell me this. He was like, you really know what you're talking about. And I'm like, yeah, because I do my research and I know, you know, what I want and what I'm trying to take away from this. And he said, usually people do not come in like that and we take advantage of them. He literally told me that. And it was in that moment I actually went home and wrote a blog article about negotiating a car deal because I was like, wow, like he really told me this. I need to educate my people on how to get around this. But just take that and multiply it by everything around us. And so we have to be more adept and more knowledgeable about this type of stuff. Otherwise, we'll keep ending up where we are. So anyway, long story for a short answer.
No, I appreciate that. I needed to hear that. It's Tiffany, y'all. That's significant. You are doing something. You have the similar mindset of why I started my podcast. Is we are not doing well financially. We are not doing well financially, and because of that, you got to go here or you got to go there, or we just go in blind and we make poor financial decisions when it comes to all matters of money, which keeps us down, which keeps us poor, which keeps us able to not make advantages. And I love it. I love to see us doing well. I love to see my men and women doing well and succeeding. And when we achieve stuff, it deserves to be celebrated. But I think it doesn't happen often enough. And so I'm with you. I'm totally with you. And we got to shift that mindset. And you are a force to shift that mindset. And you're doing it, and you're impacting so many people, so many women, so many lives every single day. So continue to fight the good fight. Don't give up on any of that because it's necessary.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I just wanted to add really quick, that's another thing too, mindset, right? Because we're programmed on a daily basis, like literally every minute of the day, we're being programmed to believe certain things. It comes from our music, it comes from media, it comes from our society, it comes from all these different channels. And what it's doing is subconsciously brainwashing us. And so in order to make a difference, whether it's your money or whatever it is you have going on with life, you have to know what these ploys are. So kind of be more in tune to them. So that way you can navigate around them. Like I will tell you, I don't listen to the radio, and, you know, I do listen to music, but it's very, I listen to the same things over and over. I don't really listen to like new stuff or what have you, but it's like, I know when things are trying to program me at this point. And so I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go back to this neo soul. Like, so, you know, you just have to be more aware. And that's what I tell people. Awareness is key. You know, you have to be more aware. So that way you can acknowledge and know when this is happening, and then you can get the knowledge and then you can act on it. So it's kind of a 3-part process, but that's just, you know, you have to do it.
Mic drop. Not that mic, the other mic. That's huge. And that's real. Tiffany Grant, y'all. We have one quick commercial break, y'all. You guys are, I told y'all, this is the juice. This is the sauce. Stay tuned. We got to go to a quick commercial break because we're talking about money and we got to pay some bills. We'll be right back.
If you're looking for a reliable professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. If you are just tuning in, you missed some very important tea. Miss Tiffany Grant here on the Gentleman Style Podcast stage, sharing nuggets on her story and why she podcasts and why she focuses on money talk and financial literacy. Specifically, one of the specific things she does is focus on financial literacy in the Black community. And if you missed that, go back, scroll back, tune back in, and go rewind this whole clip because it is fire. You can find this on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Play, and wherever you get your podcasts, anywhere today. Speaking of money, you did something very unique because you've been in the game for a long, long time talking about money. You started with couponing. Why? How? Tell us why couponing and what did it do for you? What advantages or tips did you learn just from couponing at such a young age of 6 it was, right?
Yeah, so funny story about that. So when I was 6 or so, around that time, I remember that was back when they used to send the coupons in the mail. And so you would get maybe like that many in like a short little stack. And I would sit there and I would just cut them out, just going through the motions and all that stuff. And at that time, it kind of clicked to me like, oh, shoot, like this is money. Like people are just throwing away money, and I was just surprised at that. But nobody ever used the coupons. I would just sit there on the floor in my grandma's house and just cut them out. And then once I was done, I would save them. I would give them to, the adults. Nobody would ever use them. They'll end up in the garbage. And then so that's kind of how it started. But then as I got older, so when I turned 16, of course, I got my first job. I was trying to get hired as young as 14. Nobody would hire me. So when I was 16, I finally got a job. And when I got a job, my mom was like, oh, well, you can go ahead and pay your own car note now. So let me set the scene. I'm making $7 an hour. I now have a car note because my mom was like, you can go ahead and take care of that. And I'm only working part-time because I was still a high school student. So as you can imagine, my checks were very, very slim. So I was like, you know what? I can use coupons to get more bang for my buck. And so that's what I did. So when I was 16, I turned into an extreme couponer, like literally what you see on TV. I would go to the store, get a cart full of stuff, load it up, and then check out for like $20. And it was so funny at the time because people would look at me, especially the cashiers and stuff, like, this young person is like really going in with this. And yeah, it became a game for me and it became fun. And so I would always, and even still to this day, I tell people I'm allergic to full price. Like I don't pay full price on anything. I have to find a coupon for everything. So that's kind of how it started. And for me, couponing kind of helped me save money, of course, but also made me value $1 a little more. Because if you think about it, if you sit there and you just spend, are you really valuing that dollar? Meanwhile, I'm like, okay, I'm seeing this 50 cent off, all of that stuff, which is small. But then when you add it up, it becomes big. So that's how I was able to get the carts full for just like $20. And I remember running home every day with a whole bunch of stuff, unloading my car. And I'm telling my mom, I'm like, how much you think I got this for? How much you think I got that for? And, after a while, she just gave up. She's like, just tell me, Tiffany, because I have no idea. But it just became a game for me. And that's honestly how I've been able to accomplish so many financial things. I like gamifying stuff. So when I was paying off my debt, it was a game. When I was side hustling doing Uber and Lyft, it was a game. When I'm couponing, it's a game. It's always a game, but it makes it fun, and I can also compete against myself. So hopefully that answered your question.
That definitely answered my question, and that's significant, right? And so you were hustling these cashiers out of their own money, out their register, and they're wondering, how did she do that? Because I think that was the most significant thing, is they're seeing it, they work in the industry, and they know couponing exists, but to see it actually work in this young lady's life, I think created the biggest impact and the most confusion at the register for these days. Like, she just literally spent $20 and got a shopping cart full of stuff versus the nightmares of budgets that you hear. Oh, I spend 200, 300 on groceries. You're talking about money hacks. That's a huge money hack. And so what I think I hear is that led to your continued financial literacy, where it comes to you don't pay full price on nothing. Over the years, you continued that trend of, why am I paying full price? There got to be a discount code somewhere. There got to be a coupon somewhere. That's what I hear. Is that did I hear that correctly?
You are absolutely correct. And even just to backtrack a little bit, even at the stores, sometimes they would owe me money. And a lot of people didn't even know that was possible. But yes, if you stack so many coupons up, they actually have to pay you back money. I don't know if they changed it by now, but that's how it used to be. But yeah, I mean, even to this day, and as time progressed, of course, technology got better and things like that. So in my early 20s, I started getting cash back for groceries. So it looked a little different. Sometimes I would get the coupons, but, they started becoming slim to none. So then I would do the apps that would give you cash back for groceries, like Ibotta, Checkout 51, apps like that, where whatever you purchase, all you have to do is snap a picture of the receipt and they give you money back for it. So I mean, in those apps, I was making like $75, $100, every couple of months or so, just because I was so faithful in doing it. So like I said, there's a lot of different ways to coupon now. Like, it doesn't have to be the getting the newspaper and then cutting out the coupons and things like that. You can look up coupon codes. I do that when I'm online shopping. You can get the cash back. You can even get cash back for gas now. There's an app called Gas Buddy, or there's another one too. Like, there's so many apps to do so many different things. There's no reason to pay full price for anything at this point.
It's true. It's so true. You are speaking to, and thank you for ruining it for all of us. Now, if it still exists, if they didn't catch the hack, right, to couponing, so you broke the mold with that one. I really want to touch on the fact that you have been doing this. You do this. You bought your first house at the age of 26. Any money hacks, since we're on hacks, any money hacks or budgeting or finance tips or strategies with that? Because that's something you don't hear. A young person buying their first home, that's not even a goal. Everybody wants to turn up, party this, party life this, YOLO, you only live once, right? But you did something more mature and more grown and buying your first house. What are some tips and strategies you learned from that?
Yeah, honestly, I will say my first hack was that I had my son when I was young. So my oldest son, I got pregnant with him when I was 17. So I had him when I was 18. And so that kind of changed my whole trajectory life. I feel like that changed a lot. And so, when you're saying, oh, going out and party and stuff like that, that wasn't even on my mind, because I was like, I have a little person that I need to provide for. And so I feel like that was like the biggest thing in my life that, had a really, like, that's when I was like, okay, Tiffany, you need to get it together. Because at the end of the day, you have this little person that's going to depend on you at least until they're 18. And so you have to get it together. But at that time when I did buy my house, I think I was only making like, I don't know, $14 an hour, $14 an hour, something like that. And I had a goal. Like, at first, I didn't even know I wanted a house. Honestly, I was just watching my coworker. She was house shopping. And so she would be like, oh, Tiffany, what you think about this house? Oh, we're going to go see this one. And da, 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 da. So it wasn't even on my radar. But when I was watching her go through the process, I'm like, you know what? I wonder if I would qualify for something. And so I reached out to a mortgage broker. which is who she referred me to. And I was like, look, I really don't want a hard inquiry if it's not going to be worth it, because I was already money conscious, right? And so luckily he was able to, I gave him some information, like what Credit Karma said, gave him some idea of what kind of debt and stuff I had at the time. And he was able to tell me, oh, I think you would qualify for X amount without doing the HIT first, right? So once he said that, I said, oh, okay, well, if you're pretty confident in that, let's go ahead and do the HIT. And so pretty much he hit it right on the head. I was approved for this exact amount that he thought I would be. So it was in that moment, I think it was like in the same week, was when I, got with the real estate agent that she also referred me to, found the house, put in the offer. Like it all happened so fast. But what really helped was I already was budgeting. I was already budgeting. I already had some savings. And then also, guess what? My tax refund went to my down payment on my house. So that's another thing I tell people too. Make sure, like whenever you're getting a large lump sum of money, make sure you already have plans for it. Like, don't just get it and be like, oh, I'm gonna just let it sit, because if you do that, then it's just gonna blow away. I can be honest with you, just gonna blow away. So my biggest thing is to make sure every dollar that comes into your hand has a job to do before it even gets there. So anytime, like when I was in school and I was getting student refunds, student loan refunds, or when I get my tax refund every year, I already start thinking about, okay, I can put it towards this debt. I can do this with it. I can save this amount, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as it comes, I start moving it to all the goals that I had already pre-planned. So I highly recommend, if you have never budgeted or, have a spending plan or whatever you want to call it, because I know budgeting is triggering for some people, make sure you start doing that, because that gives you freedom. That gives you peace of mind. And I tell people, I don't look at budgeting as a restriction. When you think about budgeting, you're like, oh, it's like a diet for your money. No, it's more like giving you permission to do the things that you love to do and not feel guilty about it. So like when I'm working with clients and they're like, oh, Tiffany, I went and I spent this at XYZ, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's fine. You make your money to spend it. You just have to tell me where you're going to pull it from. That's all, And so if you start doing those little mind tricks and mind hacks as you're interacting with your money and experiencing your money, it'll be easier to stick to something like a budget or a spending plan. But that is the biggest thing I tell people. Start tracking. You'll be surprised how much you spend on different things. I had one client where she had like $10,000 in credit card debt. That's what was keeping her up at night. That's what she came to me for. But then when we started tracking, where she was spending her money, $800 a month was going to alcohol and hanging out with friends. She didn't even realize it. And so that just gave her the awareness. So when she saw that, then she was like, you know what? I think I can cut this back a little bit. And that extra payment went to her credit cards. And then she was able to go ahead and pay it off a little faster because that's what was important to her. So anyway, all of that to say, if you've never budgeted before, just at least start tracking, get that awareness like we talked about earlier, get that awareness up, then you get the knowledge up, and then you can start implementing.
I was waiting for you to say the life hack. I thought you were going to say, oh, the life hack is have a child. I was like, wait, what? Where are we going with this? Holy snap. But no, thank you. That is so true. So I want to stay right here. We have one more quick commercial break, but I want to come back to this because budgeting is such a taboo thing. Like you said, it's triggering for some people, but I want to stay right here. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper on that when we get back after this commercial break. But I heard we got a birthday in the audience. So happy birthday to whoever it is in the audience. I made this clip for you. So enjoy. Happy birthday to happy birthday to happy birthday to happy birthday to me. Welcome back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. If you are just tuning in, we have the incredible Tiffany Grant spilling the tea Money Hacks, her story and how she is changing the cultural mindset behind money, and so we can do better as a culture, as a community, as a society. But we are talking about budgeting, something that is completely taboo to some. And I want to share this quote because it speaks almost against budgeting, but because you can't, and the quote is, you can't save your way to $1 million, which in some aspects I believe is true. So you don't hear about the millionaire who made their millions by saving. But the trigger and the key word in budgeting is knowing where your dollar is going. And so I wanted to talk about why budgeting is such a hack for people, because it's not about saving. It's not just about living in poverty and, oh, I gotta cut all my bills in half and I gotta live on this starving mindset. There's more to it. Can you share just a deeper dive of money and budgeting? Because there's so much more to it.
Yes, and I'm so glad you brought that quote up, because here's my thing. Yes, it is true that you cannot save your way to become a millionaire. I mean, you could, but you have to invest and it takes some time and what have you. But let me tell you what saving does do. It gives you peace of mind, and it allows you to think a little clearer when it comes to how you operate in your money. And let me give you an example, right? So when I was quitting corporate America, okay, because I've been a full-time entrepreneur since 2019. When I was quitting corporate America, I was like, okay, Tiffany, you know your budget. You've been budgeting for years at this point. But what is your number? What is your number that you have to make every day? So my daily number in order to pay all of my bills. And at that time, it was about $50. I keep my bills very, very low, which is another hack too. Make sure that you keep your, expenses down, because then it's like you give yourself a raise every month or whenever you get paid. But anyway, so it was like $50 a day, right? So I was like, okay, if I can make $50 a day, I can walk away comfortably from corporate America and I'll be good. And so what did I start doing? When I got off of work, I would do Uber and Lyft and I would make my $50 a day, right? Now, once I did that, and like I said, having savings and things like that. So I had about, I would say about 3 months or so of expenses saved up when I quit corporate the second time, which is another story. But anyway, I had about 3 months of savings, and then I was making my $50 a day. So I was like, oh, well, this is totally doable. So why am I sitting here for 8 or 9 hours out of my day when I could just make my $50 and work on Money Talk with Tiff? And so what saving did for me was it gave me the freedom to think a little clearer. Instead of, if you're constantly in the rat race, you're constantly figuring out, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to make this bill? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Oh, my car just broke down. Oh, this just came up. The kids need something. If that's constantly how you're operating, then you're constantly going to think, oh, I need to keep this job, or, oh, I need to do XYZ in order to keep this money flowing. So what saving does for me is it gives me peace of mind, and it allows me to think more creatively. And so when I had the savings, what most people call emergency fund. I don't really like that term. I call it a runway fund now, because one of my friends, No Money Steve, look him up, he's cool. But he's a financial therapist. And he said, call it a runway fund because it takes the negativity out of it. If you call it an emergency fund, you're automatically thinking you're going to have an emergency. So now it's a negative. So anyway, that's another mindset switch. But anyway, I had the savings, and it helped me say, okay, Tiffany, you have this there. So if anything comes up, that is your cushion. If I didn't have that savings, I would still be panicking even to this day. And it's crazy because my coworkers at the time, they were like, well, where are you going? That's everybody's favorite question whenever you quit in a job. Well, where are you going? And I'm like, I'm going home. And they're like, but Tiffany, you have 2 boys, you have a mortgage payment. What are you going to do? And pretty much projecting their fears onto me. And I already knew what my number was. I already knew that my financial stuff was intact. I already had a budget. I already knew what I was doing. So for me, none of that stuff bothered me because I knew I was going to I was going to take care of it. And I knew that everything was going to take care of itself. So I say that to say, yes, Well, no, savings can't make you a millionaire per se. There's a little argument there too, but it can give you the peace of mind to start thinking creatively and doing things a little different. So that's my answer to that. Now, don't get me wrong. I have seen millionaires. I've worked with millionaires and they did save their way. I mean, it wasn't investments and stuff, but they did save their way to millions. So anyway.
I love it. I love it. Miss Tiffany, you're pulling my heartstrings here, because when we talk about money and we talk about finance in the Black community, it is so powerful and it needs to be talked about so much more than it already is. And so that's why in the beginning I gave you so many props and so many kudos, because it isn't talked about. One of the biggest reasons why a divorce is money. That's one of the big reasons. It's money and money issues and money problems. And so if you can curtail that in the beginning, before you get into marriage, before you get into a relationship, you'll save yourself so much grief. And so thank you for sharing your story on that and speaking to that effect, because it needs to be out there. It needs to be heard. You have been so phenomenal this episode, and I wanted to ask, you've dropped so many nuggets. What's one final tip for that young beginner, that young girl, that young boy out in the audience that is terrified because money isn't discussed in the Black home? Grandma ain't talking about it. Mom and dad ain't talking about it. What nugget would you say to that young girl, that young boy who wants to start investing, saving, and getting on the right track and right relationship with money?
Yeah. So first things first, be more aware of, how you interact with money currently. So like, if there's somebody that's a spender or like a super saver, there's a reason why you interact with your money that way, and kind of tap in, whether it's how you were raised, what you saw growing up, maybe it's your friends, maybe it's society, whatever those triggers are for you, kind of be aware of that, because that's important. What people don't realize is money is very, very, very emotional. And so it controls your brain, controls everything. So I would say become more aware first, and then just start tracking. Like as simple as that. Just start like writing down when you purchase something or putting it in an app or whatever. And that type of awareness will, subconsciously you'll start budgeting. I promise. Like you're gonna be like, wait a minute, I just spent $100 on what now? So subconsciously you'll start on that process. And that's how I started. I just started tracking my expenses. And then lo and behold, now I love budgeting and I can't get enough of it. And then also just another mindset switch, because like I said, it's all about the mind, right? I read this book called Your Money or Your Life. And in that book, she says, look at every purchase as how many hours you would have to work in order to make that purchase. So let me give you an example. Let's say you're making $20 an hour, okay? There's some shoes that's $60. That's 3 hours of your time you would have to give up in order to get those shoes. So then you start looking at money not as just a thing that you're throwing out there, but as your time. And your time is valuable. We get a finite amount of time here on earth. And so when you start looking at money that way, you start changing things and, start spending a little different. So I just wanted to throw that out there too. So awareness, start tracking, and then start changing your mindset.
Huge. We have a question from one of our VIP sponsors of the show, Miss Nikki Brown. Thank you for your sponsorship. We appreciate your sponsorship. Your sponsorship helps us get and find unique guests like Miss Tiffany Grant. So she asked a question. I'm budgeting. I've started a side business. I have my daily number. What's next? Where do I invest?
Yes. Okay. So you're already budgeting. You started a side business. You know how much you need to make in your side business in order to step away from your full-time gig, if I understand you correctly. So what's next? All right. So it just depends on what you're trying to do. Because I tell people, it doesn't have to be or, it could be and, right? So you can do your side hustle and your full-time job. I mean, I did it for years before I decided to step out on my own. So
The second time.
The second time. Right. So it just depends on what you're trying to accomplish. And that's also what I want people to start doing too. Start thinking about what your goals are. Because a lot of times we make decisions and we're not really clear on what our goals really are. And so we end up making decisions that either don't align or we could have did it a different way, So figure out what you are trying to accomplish and what your goals are. Now, let's say, for instance, just hypothetically, because I don't know all the details. So let's just say, you're like, okay, Tiffany, I know my daily number. I'm making it in my side business. Now, what do I do? I would suggest, if your goal is to leave corporate America, like I said, go ahead and start saving. So make sure you have at least 3 to 6 months saved up, because I will tell you from experience, entrepreneurship is not easy. Sometimes I wake up and I'm like, what the heck am I doing? I need another job. But, I will tell you, it is not easy. And sometimes you're not going to make what you think you make when you first start. So I tell people that are making that transition, make sure you have some money saved up. So that way, like, for instance, I said second time because the first time I didn't do that. I only had like a month. And I was like, ooh, it's getting a little tight. And
1 month of runway. Yeah.
Right. I was like, it's getting a little tight. And so I had to get a job again. And so, make sure you have at least 3 to 6 months of your expenses saved. And when I'm saying expenses, I mean, you have to look at personal and business, because now you have a whole different expense category coming up too, right? So make sure you have that. And then let's say, for instance, hypothetically, Nikki, you already have that. Then what are you waiting for? At the end of the day, I tell people, everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear, and you don't know what's going to happen until you do it. And so my philosophy in life is ready, fire, aim, right? So instead of ready, aim, fire, I do ready, fire, aim. I get ready enough to where I'm not in analysis paralysis. I go ahead and fire. I make that shot. And then if I miss, I'm like, okay, I know where I need to tweak. I know what adjustments I need to make, or what have you. So now I can aim a little better. So my thing is, you fail early and you fail often, but you'll never know until you get it out there, until you get that thing done. So that would be my tips and tricks and information for you. And hopefully that helped.
Huge. And that's so true. And you said something here that if push comes to shove, you were able to go back to work. Right. So it's never a one and done type of thing. You can always bounce back. You can always start Ubering more. You can always start driving and doing deliveries more. You can always go back to work. So that jump doesn't have to be the final, parachute. Right. You can always reset.
I'll also say you can always pivot too. Like, you can always pivot. Like, that has been my thing. I am a master pivoter. Okay. So like,
you're an entrepreneur. You have to.
I'm a master pivoter because, like, for instance, when COVID hit, right? So I make most of my money with Money Talk and speaking, things like that. And of course, when COVID hit, nobody wants me to come speak anymore. I was supposed to speak in so many different states and, even had an international trip booked and everything shut down. So I'm like, dang, like, what am I supposed to do now? So you know what I did? I created a whole new business, a logistics business. We saw the commercial earlier, a logistics business. And what that did was that was an essential business. So that ran all through COVID. And I was able to survive because I just pivoted real quick. And now that everything is opening back up, the beginning of this year, I pivoted right back to Money Talk because I have more fun doing this than I did running that business. But I knew when it was time to walk away. I knew when it was time to fold real quick and then pivot to something else. So, what was that saying? Know when to hold them, know when to fold them, know when to walk away, know when to run. That is so important to master as an entrepreneur as well, because a lot of people get emotional with their businesses. They hold on for too long or they try to stick it out, and you don't have to. You could definitely pivot or do something different. It's okay. Business is business. It's not you. It's not who you are as a person. Business is business. So
super true. That's super true. Thank you, Miss Tiffany. And thank you for being So impactful this episode. How can my audience connect with you? How can we learn more? How can we grow with you? Because the train has left the station, but it's not too late to hop on board. How can my audience find you?
It's never too late, y'all. You can always change the ending, even if you can't change the beginning. But anyway, you can find me. moneytalkwitht.com is the website. At Money Talk with T everywhere on social media. When I say everywhere, I mean everywhere. I'm addicted to social media. And then your eyes got wide. So true though. And then the podcast is Money Talk with Tiff. So you can find me over there as well, wherever you listen.
Love it. Love it. Check her out. She's a force to be reckoned with. And I told you guys, let's bring that back on stage. I told you guys this woman is changing the absolute game. So we got to let Miss Tiffany go. She got many companies to run. She got business to take care of, and she got them boys to take care of. But Tiffany, I am so proud of you. And I am so happy for you taking the time to give back today and share these nuggets. You all connect with what she is doing. She is absolutely awesome. I became a subscriber in the time she was talking. That's rude, right? That's super rude of me, but I couldn't help it. My finger was hovering over the button. But like I always, Miss Tiffany, don't give up. Don't quit. We need you. We need what you're doing and so much more. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. My purpose is so much bigger than me. So even when I want to give up some days, I know my purpose and it's strong. So thank you so much for having me. And I'm so grateful for this opportunity.
Absolutely. Anytime. And thank you, my audience, for tuning in to Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this helps. I hope this helps take your business, your podcast to the next level. Like I always end every show, take care of family, take care of friends, and always take care of business. This is Marcus Norman, your favorite gentleman, and Miss Tiffany Grant with moneytalkwitht.com. Bye.